Hello, hello! Thanks for joining me, Brianne C. Martin, aka the People Engineer, yet again for another day of Vlogmas. I'm really excited. This is going so much better than I've ever done before, and I think I was really trying to do too much pressure on myself of doing it like every single day, whereas now I just kind of record a few at a time, tend to the topics you guys are answering or asking, and which I appreciate the questions. So keep them coming. Again, comment below if you need any help. Feel free to, again, hit me up in the DMs or on Instagram, Facebook, you name it. I'm here for you guys. So we had several different ones that I'm actually logging onto my computer right now. And so some of the ones that kind of kept coming up were more career driven. And so I'm really excited. We talked about the internships versus applications, talked about kind of just figuring out what to even do with your career and kind of, discovering your purpose with your engineering degree. And now there was a specific request for early career advice for young engineers. And so I really wanted to kind of touch on that just in the professionalism of becoming a new professional, and not that you need your PE license. Let me know if you have any questions about that. There's actually been debates or been conversations going on about that as well, but particularly about just early career advice for a STEM professional. So first and foremost, again, like as I mentioned, you're going to be learning a lot very fast. Like you're getting information from a fire hose, and that is a very, very common term you'll hear, because it's kind of what it is. It's just like you're overwhelmed with the amount of information, with the documents, with the process of walkthrough through training or anything you can do. Obviously it takes us time to process and kind of walk through it in our brains. I'm a very visual learner, so first and foremost, if you know how you learn best, make sure that you tend to that type of learning, or even try a whole spectrum, right? Whether it's listening or writing stuff down, or again, visuals, or even just hands-on. My biggest thing is if you tell me to again fill out an Excel spreadsheet, like my brain's gonna pause and just stop and be like, we can't do that. So what I tend to do is drop a lot of pictures. There I was required to do like a total landed cost, and quite frankly, this just is not how my brain works. And so this is actually how I did it. I kind of did an outline. I even just did like blank spaces. I did my own process map and kind of broke it up into pieces. And so that way, again, in my head, I can actually see it and physically maneuver things around to be able to start plugging those information in. And so again, it's not that I'm a bad engineer, that I can't just, plug stuff into an Excel sheet and, populate cells. It's just how my brain works. I'm a very visual person, very visual learner, which is even why I use my hands a lot, is because if I can't make sense of it as a story or see it or play it out in my head, then it's just not going to happen. I come to like a screeching halt. So simply, again, knowing how you work, what your strengths are, weaknesses is a big one. And obviously that's even just part of the interview process, is because if you don't know that about yourself, it's very difficult for you to work in a team environment, or, for your supervisor or administrative, managers to even be able to help guide you. Is you have to kind of know how you learn. And simply, again, just knowing your strengths and weaknesses is a big one. First and foremost, I would say get into the right habits. Know that there are 30, 60, 90-day reviews. If your manager or even company or HR doesn't have that rotating schedule where your manager is going to set it up for you, set it up for yourself. That's a huge coming out of the gate. Your first 90 days are going to be vital. 1, to your success, 2, to your learning process or even your new role, and then 3, to your management team to be able to coach you or guide you. There's a lot about managing up and then them learning how to manage you. You don't manage everyone the same way, which is a lot of managers' biggest mistake. And so it's almost like children, right? Some kids, you can just give them a look and they know. Others, you kind of have to grab them and say, listen here, child. So the same way, again, that you would parent different, your kids differently, the same that we all have to manage each other, manage ourselves. And so that's a big one. So again, just paying attention to your 30, 60, 90 days is huge. And again, for me, myself, I've had to set it up with my own employers a couple times because my managers, didn't set it up. I knew it was coming up, and I didn't have a meeting invitation, right? So I was like, oh, hey, I need feedback to know, what are things I'm doing that you like? What are some things that you feel I could work on? Am I communicating the way that you would like for me to? Is there any discrepancy? Because this is how I feel, and so I can sit down and say hey, I feel like I'm not doing this enough, and then my boss can give feedback and say, no, you're doing great, like by far, like you're even doing better than we thought. Oh, okay, so then I can check that off my list and actually start, tending to my focus on something else that maybe I hadn't caught or thought of. And so just kind of like get on the same page. My 30, 60, 90 day and the last several jobs have been really, again, beneficial and crucial to even where I continue to set up, just quarterly meetings. Hey, this is where I'm at. Hey, this is what's going on. Even obviously we have like weekly meetings and, upper management meetings and so on and so forth. It's not that we don't have staff meetings and don't communicate, but I really need to focus on like, hey, how am I performing? Like, is my performance up to par? These are the projects I think I'm excelling in, and these I'm kind of falling behind. This is my plan of action. Please guide me, coach me, help mentor me, give me advice, or maybe you can, help solve a piece of it or whatever. But just having that self-awareness within myself, and again, like taking time to slow down and really evaluate. Don't just point fingers. Well, so-and-so didn't give me the information I needed, or so-and-so took so long. Granted, those things happen, but instead of blaming others, like take responsibility for what you can, what is whatever you're in control of, right? Ask for help when you need it. And that's the whole reason for having a supervisor, a team lead, a manager. So again, that's kind of the biggest takeaway I can say, even just starting out early career, is don't think, oh, they just don't know, or oh, my boss is just dumb. Granted, there may be some mismatch of personalities, or even your boss isn't as good of a manager, especially if they come from a technical background. That's kind of the biggest hurdle a lot of managers, supervisors, team leads have, is now learning to be hands-off, because as a technical, engineering individual, you're used to having a deliverable, and then now your deliverable is what your people actually produce. So I would say, again, be patient and calm and collected when you work with your managers. It's definitely a different mindset you have to take, and so if you can help guide them along that, and again, learn what you like to be managed. Do you need a little bit more micromanagement to like really get you going, or would you rather just be like, totally free and you get to decide? Are you that good of a self-manager? Or sometimes, some of us need to be held accountable. For me, even just as simply at the end of the week, hey, Brianne, you said you would get these things done, really helps me, because I'm like, oh man, I totally forgot about, thank you so much. Like I would have, forgotten if you would have not brought it up. And I even do that with my design engineers, people that are not even like my, authorization or authority figures. But I just ask them like, hey, please don't let me forget. I know you need these by Friday. Like, remind me on Wednesday or Thursday. And it's just that simple accountability. I know that I need that for myself, because, on Monday I have this list of things I need to do, and it totally explodes on Tuesday, because that's manufacturing, and that's how the world goes. So again, just being able to find those little ways to help yourself makes a huge, huge difference. Another thing is, I'm very big on utilizing like my own personal planner. So if you don't have a planner, and you're just amazing and you can remember stuff, have a photographic memory, then sure, you're like, the 5-10% of us that don't need to do that. But for the rest of us, again, 90%, like be prepared that stuff's gonna get chaotic. So have some kind of timeline, have some kind of like outline of your day. A lot of, I want to say even entry-level professionals like forget to eat, or they end up just going out to eat all the time, and then they wonder why they don't have any money at the end of the month. And so be very conscious, like it's going to be easy and very, I want to say like stress-free to just get up and go to the cafeteria, or, go drive to, go eat every day. And granted, like, you have every right to do so, but being able to plan. So sometimes you are going to have a meeting at your desk through lunch, and it's going to be a crazy conference call, and it's going to take 2.5 hours. So being able to just simply have your lunch, throw it in the microwave, call in with your headset and just be able to eat at your desk, makes a huge difference. So there's little things like that. And again, everything that's in your control, take time to slow down and plan it out. Again, I can't stress that enough, because again, you'll be caught back to back to back meetings, and then you won't even think about eating until 3. And then by that time you're like, no, don't worry about it. I'll just, eat afterwards. And then you wonder why you have headaches, or you're exhausted, or why you have no energy. And then it just creates this crazy cycle. Another thing is, several of us become workaholics because we want to prove ourselves, and we want to like show that we can do the very best, which again is wonderful, but to a certain extent. So yes, there are circumstances where you will have to pull all-nighters, or have to take a customer's call, super late or after hours, but don't let that become a reoccurring thing. Like, don't let it become normal, because a company is, this big, massive thing, and they're just focused on making business, or they're focused on business, on making money, and you're a little resource. Granted, they may, be very good at treating you like a person, but if you give them you know, everything all the time, and you're saying like, hey, you know, suck the life out of me, you know, I'm okay with it, they're going to keep pulling from that resource bank. And so you're setting the expectation. So the same way that, you know, you train people how to treat you, you're training your managers, your management team, you know, even your executive leadership. Hey, like, I'll show up every time you call. And so that's when kind of the work-life integration, you know, becomes very important. Other people call it work-life balance. But, you know, just being able to acknowledge that if or when you start giving up that time, that becomes a new expectation. So then obviously don't get upset when they won't let you take vacation because you've already given up so many other vacations. Granted, again, it's a give and go kind of thing. Again, if you have a good management team, good people who understand how you work and how the whole system works, they'll look out for you. But again, make sure that you ask those kind of questions when you get started. Make sure that, again, you're very, you know, decisive in what you want and what you are looking for. And again, obviously, hopefully you fleshed all of that out before you know, accepting the job and taking the interview. But again, those are a few tips. I can't even talk. Those are just a few tips I have, again, for getting your early career started. Again, that 30, 60, 90 day is kind of monumental, especially if you do quarterly reviews. And then one document that I actually do, and I'll actually even share here in the link for YouTube video and the channel, is like creating like a wins book. So that was something that I actually heard, and I think someone was doing it as an entrepreneur. Like, I just have to remind myself of the little wins. And I thought, you know, I know that we have a yearly annual review. Like, I want to keep track of all the fails, because I felt like, you know, failing forward, you know, all the times I took chances and felt like, you know, okay, I don't want to do that, or that doesn't really represent who I am or my work ethic, as well as all the wins. And I focus on the wins a whole lot more than the fails, because obviously they'll stick a little bit better. But like the little wins of, you know, just simply being in a meeting and people giving me a compliment, or people, you know, really being impressed with my work or how I carried something out, or the times that I was ahead of the curve and like helped someone else. And so, you know, just those side projects I took on, or again, a time where I kind of covered someone else's, I don't know, slides or presentation, or if they needed me to run to the line. And again, it may not have aligned with my job, but the fact that I was able to go out and help the bottom line, right? We all work for the same company, the same, you know, person pays our check at the end of the day. So just those little things that, again, I just kind of add up. And so then that way, when I remember it that time, and I just go put it in like my little Excel sheet. But I'm not going to remember it in 8 months, or again in a whole year at the end of the year when my, you know, yearly review comes up. So again, just simply keeping track of those kind of things makes a huge difference, and your management team will certainly thank you. And as well as, again, if you can kind of do that, it kind of starts helping you cultivate different ideas of what you want to do, your career path, having those type of conversation as well. So I hope this was helpful. Again, I can definitely go into more detail or even tips or kind of examples of what I've done to be a successful early professional in the STEM world. So please let me know, again, in particular questions, comments. Feel free to share your own stories or even suggestions or resources. I'll see you guys later, heading to dinner. So hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you on the next video for Vlogmas 2018. Wanna bye.